What's good, folks? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Melanie. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. And for this video, we're going to be talking about complicated family relationships, non-traditional family backgrounds. And I'm in a new setting because I'm visiting a friend, and so kind of trying some stuff out. I am just enjoying these plantos, and that's why you got so many in the B-roll. So yeah. Okay, first book on this list is De Immortalis by Chloe Benjamin. So I actually haven't reread this book since I first read it last year in 2022, but every time I think about it, it still gives me so many chills. So De Immortalis is about the Gold children's siblings, and we learn that at the very beginning of the book, they go visit a woman who is known to know when you're going to die. So you already know that this book is going to walk you through the lives of the Gold children and through their deaths as well. Not a spoiler, it's super obvious. It's the premise of the entire book. So once the stage is set, we follow the lives of the 4 Gold children. So obviously, each child's experience is going to be extremely different. We see them across various professions. Simon in 1980s San Francisco, Clara, a Las Vegas magician, Daniel, an army doctor post 9/11, and Vera, who is a scientist. We note the internal dialogue of each of the siblings and what they say about each other, or maybe what they don't say about each other because of the rifts that are in the family. Familial bonds are often really complex, and there's a lot of humanity to each of the siblings' existence. Did my heart break even though I knew they would die at the end? Yes. Did I love this book anyway? Also yes. And for this book, I'll leave you with this simple thought. The impossibility of moving beyond loss, faced against the likelihood that you will. It's as absurd as the seemingly miraculous, as survival always is. This is a book that honors living life, dismissing it, accepting your fate, or disregarding it entirely. The Immortalis is really a wonderfully written story. Ultimately, the thing that I think about most when I think about what stands out the most in my memory of this book is how each child took such a different approach to the information they were given from this mystical woman. Did they live their life out to the fullest? Did they avoid risk? And I don't think there's a right or wrong to the approaches that they chose. It doesn't really matter whether or not we have control over our fates and our destinies, but how we live out those experiences within ourselves and as we move through the world. And you can have very different outcomes. You are all your own brains and your own capacities of existence. Hello, this is not Melanie at all. Please consider donating to buy me a coffee. I made Melanie a coffee. Actually, Melanie doesn't drink coffee. You can buy them a slice of pizza. Support their videos by clicking this link below. Thank you. Don't ask why we're on the ground. I just thought it'd be interesting. Okay, next book is The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. This is a story about Ruth, who is an Ivy League educated Black engineer now living in Chicago, shouts! And on a visit to her family in Indiana, she's forced to face a piece of her past that she left behind when she was a teenager, which is the baby that she gave birth to right before going to college. You can imagine the various family conversations that she has to have on this visit, kindest lies that our parents told us to shield us, to offer a better life and a future. Ruth, now living in the big city in Chicago as a well-known engineer, she is a symbol of hope and status to her family, to her town, which is an interesting role to have within your family. But at the same time, no one in the family will explicitly ask because they want you to just read their minds about how you can help them. Just wrapping this back up to where is this child that she left behind? There's this sense of her inability to make sense of herself because this piece of her is literally a question mark. She has no idea where this person is and how her life could change. Would it make her feel more whole or even more confused? Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. I just finished rereading this book for this review and it is so good. It really just does not miss. The story goes back and forth between Olga and her brother Prieto, two siblings of Puerto Rican descent living in New York from the Brooklyn neighborhood of Sunset Park. Maps. Their dad once said, "The greatest fool is the man of color who defines his success by the white man's standard." I mean, come on. Olga is a wedding planner who begins to question why she keeps pandering to the whims and follies of white people. And Prieto, now a congressman, has also succumbed for many years to the white elite developers of New York City. While both of their parents were radicals in the sense of choosing themselves over their kids, they had really good points. Both siblings are keenly aware of the gentrification happening in their neighborhood of Sunset Park. They say that the potency of a neighborhood was diluted with each shiny new edifice, thus signifying every new high-rise, microbrew, and other beautification, gentrification businesses. The book does almost too easy of a balance between Olga's and Prieto's perspectives. Each chapter is satisfyingly intentional and with enough of a cliffhanger to keep you reading. Olga and Prieto's parents are revolutionaries in the fight to free Puerto Ricans on the island from colonialism and capitalism. They have actually been absent for most of their lives. Their extended family, their grandmother, aunts and uncles, have been responsible for them since leaving the kids in their teens. And is part of the reason that Olga and Prieto are so hyper-independent, because they want to keep proving their worth to their parents, even if their parents aren't even around and may never even come back. And in one of Olga's chapters, there's this quote, "Still, the house she grew up in is a representation of her family's hopes and dreams. While she no longer lives there, they all have ties to the neighborhood that are unreleasable. A sense of ownership always comes from where you are raised. I myself am really proud to be from Norwalk, California, which is Los Angeles County, where my classmates and I taught each other how to fill out financial aid and college applications because we were the first in our families to do so." The author's range in being able to describe the points of view of Olga and Prieto is so good. In between their chapters, they also receive letters from their mother, who is kind of condescending and intrusive from so far away, and it is amazing the power that an authority figure can have from literally you have no idea where she's coming from, like geographically. And the mother's voice infuriates me to no end because I know how much these siblings, now middle-aged in the story, have dealt with since she left them. The main lesson that I got out of this book is the ability to be a good parent is to let your children become their own people. Next up is the Front Desk series by Kelly Yang. Alright, so we're pivoting a middle grade book series. It is such a well done story. While the main characters of this are Mia and her parents. This family is Chinese American. A chosen family develops from this hotel that they manage. It's a really easy read, so finely addresses big concepts into simplified terminology, topics such as anti-blackness, undocumented immigrants, pursuing the American dream, and trying to navigate all of these things while they're managing a Southern California hotel business right down the street from Disneyland. The kids are always wondering, like, when are we gonna get to go to Disneyland? Or are we just gonna spend our whole lives being so close and yet so far from it? Also, while the story is largely fictional, it is based from the author's experiences. While it's partially sad that students have to know about these things and know how to navigate them, it is also so empowering that these stories actually exist with words and tools that make sense like 10 to 12-year-olds. Really powerful series, and you could probably read it within a couple of days because they're really short. I'm gonna stay in this spot again because I really like this little corner section. Plus these are so cute. On a more serious note, Things We Lost to the Water by Eric Nguyen. So this is another Asian American immigration story. It is about a family who, right at the beginning of their immigration story, actually gets separated from their father, leaving the mother with 2 sons to venture from Vietnam to New Orleans. We see the characters struggling with English. They say, whereas in Vietnamese, the words told you how they wanted to be pronounced, in English, the words remain shrouded in mystery, which is so true because English pronunciations are all over the place and they're accent based on regions, not on how the words should be. There's no and there's no standardization of what English should be. We also see the familiarity of stoicism becoming required to appear strong in the family as you're going through hardship. One of the sons describes the mom as, she had been like this since they left Vietnam. Sometimes she cried, but most of the time she stayed quiet and her face remained serious. And there's just the truth of having to bury your experiences so you can appear to maintain a sense of control. We can forget anything and everything if only we tried, if only we made the effort. And the relationship between the two brothers is so gut-wrenching. One was older when they immigrated and one was a little younger. So the older one had a bit of a harder time like adjusting, acclimating, learning English. So when my parents and I moved to the United States from Italy, I was 8 and my brother was 22. He had already been moved from the Philippines to Italy at some point. This book actually helped me realize the difference between my brothers and I's experiences because I was so upset for so long. And when my parents spent the most of my life telling me not to end up like my brother, I internalized that and I resented my brother for it. I had no idea what my brother was going through. The most painful part of this book were the silences. The lack of communication between each other to tell them even what they were doing throughout their day or throughout their week, who were their friends and who were not, who they spent time with, because they were all so deeply hurt and separated from each other since their experiences were so different and they never talked about them. We're gonna get cozy for this last one here. Last book on this list is Angelus Ashes by Frances McCourt. So this is a memoir written by the author about a child's life experiences through about the age of 14, as they all experienced poverty in Ireland. And there's a piece of you that wants to be sad and pity his family for all of the things that they were experiencing. But there is this huge sense of acceptance and peace of the time period that he was in that flows you into the next sequence of events with lightheartedness and wit and just honesty. At multiple points, I remember adults pointing out to Francis that he looked so serious whenever he was doing something, and it's probably because he was already having to worry about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 siblings and his parents, what food they were gonna eat next, as that was never guaranteed. With their dad being an alcoholic, spending all of his wages on the pub before he could even get home and give food to his family. And also, given how I'm really squishing this thing. But given how little their family has, Francis hangs on to every piece of song and story that his parents share with him and claim them as his own. Even though they're common folk tales or songs, if someone else sings or tells the story, he's very quick to interject and be like, that's my song. My dad gave me that song. And that's such an interesting mindset to hang on to, the same way that people hang on to teddy bears or their favorite blanket or whatever knickknack that they have physically. And it was just interesting because they didn't have any physical items other than like a set of shirts and pants. And I really love the sense of pride in the things that they did have. He enjoys the moments he has with his family. Even just getting time with his dad in the morning before he started drinking, before he was screaming at everybody, he had time with his dad, and that meant the world to him. And those are the things that he hangs on to. It's easy for us to judge like, oh, what a deadbeat dad. But we have no idea the mental health struggles that dad faced and how their dad had the potential to be a good dad, but just couldn't. And there wasn't social access to, addiction and mental health services where he could have been supported for his drinking. The closest story I could compare this to is Educated by Tara Westover, because while she and her family also faced a lot of hardships, there's a lot of grace to the tone of that story. The acceptance of that past as simply a part of her life, not this extraordinary thing that she went through, allows a profound level of gratitude for those experiences, and that they simply are just another part of their lives, especially in this age of publicizing mental health and becoming more normalized as a topic. There's a lot of glorification of traumas and bad experiences as the means and catalysts for us to be this person in our lives. And while they're painful, they should just be accepted as part of our stories, like not some kind of character arc, and not something that makes us heroic. Just because someone went through something more difficult, more strenuous than you, does not mean that your story is less valid. It's just different. All right, folks. So those are my recommendations on complicated and non-traditional family dynamics and siblings. So I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, Moviti.